was 4 days before Christmas, and all through the dome, anger was stirring. Lawmakers just wanted to go home. Alas, 2 critical bills were still left to go, and the votes were taking forever, with the GOP crying, "No, no, no!" All right, now, all poems and jokes aside, what's happening on the Hill is no laughing matter for tens of thousands of American heroes. Right now, a $6.2 billion bill to treat sickened 9/11 rescue workers is being held up and in danger of not passing. The bill must make it through the Senate as soon as possible if it has any chance of making it back to the House for final passage. The bill was first blocked by the GOP, then stalled by a need to pass the START treaty first, since it's a top presidential priority. Similar shenanigans provoked this impassioned response from New York Congressman Anthony Weiner over the summer.
We stand up and say, "Oh, if only we had a different process, we'd vote yes." You vote yes if you believe yes. You vote in favor of something if you believe it's the right thing. If you believe it's the wrong thing, you vote no. We are following a procedure. I will not yield to the gentleman.
It is a shame, a shame. Well, that was other parts. Okay, and joining us now from Washington is that same Congressman, Anthony Weiner. Congressman, great to have you here.
Thank you, Cenk.
First, let me start by saying Steny Hoyer is saying today that there's a possibility that they can get this to you guys tomorrow. How hopeful are you that it's going to get passed by the House and the Senate?
Well, this is 9.5 years in the making. Frankly, every single day that we delay, literally someone is dying. And these are people that, as you said, travel from all around the country. You can hear them a mile away because they have such a toxic stew in their lungs that they're coughing all around. And we're hopeful that now the long wait is over. The Senate, I've heard, has at least 60 votes. And all we in the House are saying, the American people are saying, is let's just have an up or down vote on this. We will wait till Christmas. We'll wait through Christmas. We'll wait right up until the first of the year, if necessary. We in the House have waited for this to be acted on long enough, and I do believe it's finally going to happen.
Congressman, Senator Tom Coburn, Republican, had a different version of events here and his take on it. Let's watch it, and I want to get your reaction.
This is a bill that's been drawn up and forced through Congress at the end of the year on a basis to solve a problem that we didn't have time to solve and we didn't get done. So what we're going to do is we're going to pass a bill, maybe, doubtful, and then we're going to have to come back and fix it, and we're going to waste a whole bunch more money and not fix the real problem.
What do you think, Congressman?
Well, I don't know how long the show is, but he's wrong on a lot of counts. So let me just try to correct him. First of all, this is not a last-minute effort by any stretch of the imagination. This is 6 years. This is hearings that have been done. The Government Accountability Office has taken a good hard look at the programs we're funding to make sure that they're virtuous. We know exactly who's in the universe that's going to get it. It's a fully funded, paid-for bill. If every bill in Congress went through this vetting process and had this funding stream, our country would not be in some of the mess that we're in right now. This is long time coming, but I have to tell you this. At every step of the way, there has been some excuse about why this should not become law. I say to Senator Coburn and anyone who's opposed to it, vote no. That's fine. I believe we have more than enough votes to get this thing passed, but there is simply not a reasonable position to say, I'm against it, therefore I'm not going to let my colleagues vote on it, and that's what's going on here on the Senate floor.
Congressman, I'm trying to understand what's happening here. Why do you think the Republicans are blocking it? Do you think it's politics? I mean, they say initially, oh, what about the cost? But there was an offset, right? I believe the original offset was to close a tax loophole for corporations. So that's not it. What is it? What's their motivation? Because this seems like, it honestly, seems mental to block this.
Well, I don't know, and I don't want to ascribe the worst motivations to people, but I can tell you when there are questions raised about whether or not this should be an open-ended program, we said no, it should not, and put a specific cap on it. When people said, despite the fact that we just passed an $800 billion unfunded bill, people said they wanted this bill to be paid for, so we found a pay for. When people said I didn't like that pay for, we came back with others. Look, the fact is that the sponsors of this and the people who would benefit from this have done everything possible to try to accommodate the reasonable concerns. That's why it's taken 9 years. But now here we are on the eve of Christmas, 9 years after September 11th. Over 900 people have died since September 11th from 9/11 related illnesses. These are not people who are politicians that went down to ground zero. These are just average Americans who came from all around the country, a lot of them first responders. They are dying today because Congress hasn't acted. If we can do no other thing bipartisanly in this Congress, in this country, let it be this. Let this be the one thing we close the season on and say, you know what, it's coming up on Christmas Day. People should vote however they want, but let's have an up or down vote. I think that would be a way to honor this country, honor the sacrifices they made, and ultimately honor the spirit of Christmas.
Look, I say it's mental because it's such a no-brainer. I can't believe that they would vote against this around Christmas time after the Republican Party has talked so much about 9/11. But it did take all this time, as you're explaining. So was it partly Jon Stewart who moved the issue here when he did a whole Daily Show on it? Because honestly, I didn't see it coming up and with this level of urgency in this lame duck session before Stewart did that show.
Well, John has this place in American civic life where he is kind of like the lens of our conscience, you know. He calls out both sides as he sees them. And in this case, you're exactly right. There just isn't a substantive reason not to do this. You know, in the days after September 11th, and you know this because you were in New York, cars were lined up along the West Side Highway. You looked at the license plate. They're from all around the country. People came to Ground Zero to help out, very often digging out dust in buckets. Those people were told by their country that the air was safe to breathe. As it turned out, it's killing them. So when Jon Stewart devoted a whole show of this, he didn't stand and do the talking. He didn't have a politician do it. He had people who were those responders talk about this. And then Rachel did a show the other night that was just as influential. And now you're seeing many more Republican spokespeople come out and say, Rudy Giuliani, Huckabee came out in favor of it. I saw former Congressman Livingston. All across the spectrum, people are saying, you know what, this is just the right thing to do. Maybe it's a success for the Democratic Congress, but honestly, it's not going to be Obama or Weiner that get the credit. It's going to be the people that get these services, and that really is what we should be thinking about right now.
And 70% of the responders have respiratory illness, so it's obvious that they got it from responding to 9/11 and doing the cleanup. So again, it should be a no-brainer. But now, you know, I want to go back to one other thing here, Congressman. If you know, we have the Don't Ask, Don't Tell repeal, which we did, right? And it looks like this will pass, the 9/11 responders bill. It looks like the START treaty will pass. Does it make the president's tax cut compromise, which then greased the wheels for getting all of this passed, does that make the compromise a little bit more palatable in your eyes?
Well, look, here's what I will say. If you start stacking these things up and you look at the last 2 years, President Obama's first 2 years, it's arguably one of the most successful 2 years that a president has had any time in recent memory. Giant transformative things, small 3 yards in a cloud of dust things that had sat since the entire Bush administration, meaning the 9/11 first responders. It's been remarkably successful. My concern is and was that when someone says, I'm going to hold my breath until I get my way, it just encourages them to hold their breath later on. We are not prepared to count the 9/11 first responders bill as a success for anyone yet, because still the Republicans have the ability to throw obstacles in the way that run out the clock. And so I think that let's keep our eyes on that prize. And I think there'll be a lot of credit, and I also think a lot of votes. You know, as much as you've heard Democrats come out and advocate for this, I think if you call a vote on this, I wouldn't be surprised if you have 70 votes in the Senate for this bill, which is even more reason why we should go ahead and call a vote on it.
All right, Congressman Weiner, thank you so much for joining us. Really appreciate it.
Thank you. Have a great holiday.